From the Bay Area's news source, this is KPIX 5 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Ana Chavez.
And I'm Dave McElhatton.
Tonight, U.S. Ambassador Walter Mondale confirms that a young American woman is among the 2,000 people killed by the devastating quake in Japan. Right now, more than 100,000 people remain homeless, 12,000 are injured, and more than 1,000 are missing. Fires continue to destroy what is left of Japan's main western port, and water is in short supply. It is 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon in Japan, and search and rescue teams say the next few hours are crucial if they're to find some of the missing alive. Tony Rusomano reports.
A walk down a street today, if you can find one that's passable, in Kobe. Japan's Civilian Defense Force has joined firefighters and other rescue workers, but it took as long as 15 hours to even reach some of the more devastated areas.
There is a massive rescue operation underway trying to reach some of the more than 1,000 people who are still missing. The problem has been that because the quake was so powerful and the fires so devastating afterwards, it's been very, very difficult for rescue crews to move around and to reach the worst affected areas.
Roads were crumbled, many others clogged with the debris of collapsed buildings, and everywhere, people in the streets. An American businessman found he could not leave his hotel.
We saw a convoy of ambulances try to leave Kobe, and there were so many cars on the road they could not get by. And with them were some Japanese soldiers, and it didn't make any difference. There were just too many people on the street. They couldn't go. We watched them for maybe 15 minutes move 100 yards. It was just terrible. Just too many people running around on motorbikes and bicycles and cars trying to go places, and there's no roads.
The quake trapped thousands in the beds where they slept. Watch the bottom of your screen as a sleeping man is startled awake, nearly crushed by a falling cabinet, and finally can only pull a blanket over his head. In Osaka, 20 miles from Kobe, officials from the California Office of Emergency Services were attending a conference on earthquake hazard reduction.
Coming from California, where we do also experience quite a few earthquakes, and I've been through quite a few of them myself, it was still a very frightening experience, particularly being on the fourth floor of a high-rise hotel. Well, my first thoughts are, how am I going to get myself out of this one? But I was happy that the duration was short.
Tens of thousands of people spent the night outdoors, fearful of the continuing powerful aftershocks. Refugee camps have sprung up in parks or any open space, but relief efforts have reached only a fraction of the victims.
We don't have any food. It's very cold out here. We don't know how long this is going to continue. I have to spend the night here because our house is wrecked. We can't go back there. We have to stay outside in case there's another quake.
I don't know how many times a quake will hit. That's what we're all afraid of.
The magnitude 7.2 quake was the strongest to hit an urban area of Japan since 1948. Kobe is a city that was supposed to stand up to earthquakes, but hardly one block in the city of nearly 1.5 million people has a house or a building intact tonight. Tony Rusomano, KPIX 5 News.
Preliminary figures show that the quake has caused more than $40 billion in damage within a 60-mile radius of Kobe. Dave?
The damage toll is comparable to last year's Northridge quake in Southern California, but the human toll is much higher. One reason is the location. Kobe is a densely populated area, but another factor may be the differing lifestyles. Wendy Hanamura joins us live with that part of the story. Wendy?
Mac, I worked as a reporter in Japan for about 3 years, and what strikes me is that there are certain aspects about life in Japan that is making this disaster much worse. Above all, just the sheer density of the cities. First, imagine this. Kobe has twice the population of San Jose, crammed into an area 2/3 San Jose's size. Right now it's cold. In Japan, electric heat is expensive, so most people, including Osaka resident Diane Matsuda, keep their kerosene heaters burning.
When the earthquake happened, a lot of the gas heaters, the portable gas heaters, toppled over and caused an explosion. And because the Kobe area is so dense in population, one fire just spread and had this domino effect and just wiped out whole districts. Kobe has many narrow side streets where a lot of big fire engines or big trucks cannot pass through. And there was no central grid system, I think, like we have in America, where there are nice, neat roads and nice, wide roads where fire trucks can get in and out of very quickly. They don't have the facilities, the emergency facilities, to cater to these kinds of needs. And a lot of the ambulances aren't able to get to the people because of the narrow roads or because the fires have wiped out certain areas that they just can't pass through.
Unlike here, Japan has only a few large hospitals with emergency wards. This one collapsed. Most doctors work in tiny clinics, now overwhelmed by the dying. And for the first time, Japan's famous bullet train ground to a halt, affecting travel in every part of the nation. Kobe's trains, buses, and trolleys are a twisted rubble.
A lot of people don't own cars, so it would make it very difficult, especially for commuters, to try to rent a car, and it's just such a mess in that area.
Those lucky enough to own cars were going nowhere fast.
Several cities hit hard by the quake remain paralyzed without power, water, and full telephone services.
The concept of going into shelters and having people come out and just automatically volunteer their efforts is still very new, but there are neighborhood associations that exist here, and they are coming out and making rice balls and making sure that everyone has blankets.
So right now, the relief efforts are still neighborhood to neighborhood. Some Japanese are already criticizing their government for acting too slowly. What we do know, though, is that about 1,000 self-defense troops are in the area on standby. Reporting live from San Francisco, I'm Wendy Hanamura. Mac, Anna, back to you.
Thank you, Wendy.
The Pentagon has offered to send almost anything from cots to water purification equipment to the quake area as needed. And here in the Bay Area, private groups are organizing their own relief efforts. Doug Murphy is in San Francisco's Japantown to bring us more of that story. Doug?
Anna, the Japanese-American community, as you might understand, here in Japantown across the Bay Area is just stunned by what's happened in Kobe. We are here at the Japanese Community Center. This will be kind of one of the clearinghouses, if you will, for all of the relief efforts that will come out of the Bay Area. Right now, though, they're just trying to figure out what is needed there and how they can help.
A big population that has been hurt in the Kobe area is the seniors.
The first item of business for the board of directors of the Japanese Cultural and Community Center tonight was establishing a relief fund for the earthquake victims. Money will be the first help, but a lot more to come. The center has been inundated with calls from people offering help.
With people who can't donate money, wanting to volunteer to see if there's anything here they could do locally. People have called from food companies, construction companies. People are just willing to help in any way possible.
Understanding the full scope of what's going on in Kobe is difficult. Even those arriving at SFO today from Osaka had questions. The plane was only half full. People from Kobe couldn't make it, and those arriving had no idea about their friends.
Even before I left, I tried to call my friends. The line is nothing. Maybe she died or family died, we don't know.
American Red Cross Japan Earthquake Relief Fund.
Radio Mainichi in San Francisco tonight broadcast the latest news from Japan and requests for help. And the phone lines at the newspaper Hokubei Mainichi were jammed with people trying to find out about loved ones or friends. All around Japantown tonight, people gathered at lists of the dead, painfully looking for what they didn't want to find. Yoshiji Takeisu has an aunt in Kobe.
Fortunately, I cannot find her name, so it seems to be she's still alive.
Kazuo Hashimoto can't locate two friends.
No matter how many times I called, it didn't get in touch with them.
You're looking at this list. You're concerned, huh?
Yeah, I didn't see it. So I'm relieved so far, but I don't know what's going on. So I'm worried about her.
And I think there were thousands of people probably across the Bay Area with that same experience tonight, worried about loved ones, about friends in Japan right now. There will be a big organizational meeting here at the Japanese Community Center tomorrow night. All of the Japanese American groups, the Red Cross will be here, San Francisco's mayor's office, and the Japanese consulate, all getting together, trying to see how they can put a united front together to help those people in Kobe. That's a story here in Japantown now. I'm Doug Murphy. Mac, Anna, back to you.
Thank you, Doug. Well, if you'd like to help the quake victims, and while waiting for that information, the American Red Cross does have a toll-free number that you can call now. It's 1-800-842-2200. Operators are ready to take credit card donations. If you need information about American citizens in Japan, call the State Department in Washington at 1-202-647-7310. And to find out about U.S. military personnel, you can call the Pentagon at 1-703-697-5737. Now, these last two lines are often busy, or the voice mailboxes are full, so you may have to keep trying to get through. We'll repeat these numbers and other quake-related information throughout this newscast.
Every time the earth quivers in earthquake country, it really gets everyone's attention. But even with tragedies like Kobe, Loma Prieta, and Northridge, it doesn't take long for us to get back to business as usual. Hank Plant is live in San Francisco with more on that. Hank?
Well, Mac, I'm standing here where the Embarcadero Freeway used to be. How quickly we forget, and in fact, how quickly we forget how damaging earthquakes can be. And maybe that's why so many of us here in the Bay Area are completely unprepared.
It is coming. And when experts say that a big one will hit Northern California sometime in the next 30 years, we have a tendency to think that it means in 30 years. Fact is, it could be tomorrow. And all the planning being done inside emergency centers like this one in San Francisco won't help us immediately.
The individual is going to be on his or her own for the first 72 hours. The emergency responders are going to have to focus on the large-scale problems. And the individual citizen will have to be prepared to take care of him or herself for that first 72-hour period.
That's what some people were doing tonight at surplus stores and places like this, the Earthquake Outlet store in Albany. Japan did get some customers' attentions.
Well, I live on the Hayward Fault, and so I know it's coming sometime soon. I just don't know when it's going to be, and so I want to make sure that I prepare myself.
There are lots of fancy products like crank-powered radios and flashlights, but at least have some water, some dry food, batteries, and a first aid kit around to get you through that first 72 hours. Half of us don't even have that much, says the owner of the Earthquake Outlet.
I would say 50% of the people have something, a flashlight, a bottle of water, but scattered all over the place. But to be prepared where you have supplies in your office, in your house, and in your car, I'd say 5%.
Look at it this way. You can't do anything about all the buildings and the freeways around you, but you can take responsibility for your own preparation.
Yeah, the #1 enemy in an earthquake is denial, the kind of denial that says it's not going to happen here. That isn't so, folks. So do be prepared. Look at the pictures from Japan, and while they're fresh in your mind, let them get your attention and do some planning for the future. That's the best advice. Reporting live in San Francisco, I'm Hank Plant. Mac, Anna, back to you.
Hank, how does our quake preparation compare to Japan's?
Lousy. In a word, lousy. They are so much better prepared than we are, and look at all that they're going through, Mac.
Thank you, Hank. When Loma Prieta hit, the experts said that we were lucky. The epicenter was far from the most densely populated parts of the Bay Area. The people of Kobe weren't that lucky. Here are the figures as they stand at this hour. 2,014 known dead, 1,058 missing, nearly 12,000 injured. Add to that the property damage, 10,000 buildings destroyed, 140,000 people left homeless, and a preliminary estimate of damage put at $40 billion.
Up next, we'll turn our attention to the story that affected tens of thousands of Bay Area commuters today.
Big-time BART problems. Will things be back to normal in the morning? We'll have late details.
We'll also get the latest on the flooded Russian River, including an important search that's taking place.
Brian Sussman here. Another storm queued up on the horizon. We'll have the complete forecast. Plus, you'll have an opportunity to meet two very special kids. That's later.
Good, Dylan, that's it.
And the gift of life, how a little thought and planning can change someone's world.
Hungry? Really hungry? Well, how does all the tender beef ribs you can eat sound?
Sounds like Sizzler.
Announcing Sizzler's all-you-can-eat barbecue beef ribs and salad bar for just $8.99. Get all the hearty beef ribs you want, smothered in thick, rich barbecue sauce. And take as many trips to Sizzler's famous salad bar as you like, all for just $8.99. Sizzler's all-you-can-eat barbecue beef ribs and salad bar.
Sounds like Sizzler. Sounds like fun.
Tonight, Lawrence Fishburne, X-Files' David Duchovny, and Tom Jones.
Bad news, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, all other television channels are closed for renovation.
It was a much easier commute tonight for thousands of people in the East Bay. Bart is back on schedule, easing the congestion on East Bay freeways. But earlier today, it was a commute nightmare. All you have to do to truly appreciate how important Bart is to the Bay Area transportation scheme of things is have a day like today. A fire at the Concord BART station turned Trans-Bay traffic into a quagmire. Chuck Coppola explains.
Bart's evening commute to Concord went far smoother than the morning commute. Tonight, Bart had a long line of buses ready to take commuters from Pleasant Hill the rest of the way to Concord.
I really have to give Bart an A for an effort, and I think it's A for performance as well.
I think Bart's handled it all very well, very well. The whole, everything from this morning, it took a long time to get to work, but...
How about this afternoon?
Oh, great. Everything was fine.
That wasn't the case this morning, when a 240,000-volt transformer exploded, stranding 10,000 BART commuters at the Concord station and forcing commuters into buses that tried to weave through the gridlock.
I think it's unorganized, and they weren't prepared for the emergency that happened this morning. It took us an hour to get here from Concord on all back roads.
The explosion happened shortly before 5 a.m., where Bart's substation in Concord transfers 1,000 volts of electricity to Bart's third rail that powers the trains.
I thought the whole thing was going up. It was really incredible. It was lighting up the whole sky. It was very much like a, in fact, it was just like a arc welder where you can't look at the flame. Just imagine a 30-foot diameter flame like that. You couldn't even turn your face towards it, let alone look at it.
This bus is going from here to Pleasant Hill.
By afternoon, Bart had lined up 20 buses to shuttle commuters. Taking the bus added about 15 minutes to the commute to Concord tonight. Tomorrow morning, Bart hopes to have all trains running to and from Concord in time for the morning commute. In Pleasant Hill, Chuck Coppola, KPIX 5 News.
A few minutes ago, BART officials told KPIX 5 that full service will be restored on the Concord line tomorrow. Investigators will also continue to look for the cause of the fire. One theory is water got into the substation, triggering a short circuit.
President Clinton is headed back to Washington tonight after getting a first-hand look at flood damage here in Northern California. Mr. Clinton left McClellan Air Force Base tonight after spending 2 hours with flood victims in a suburb of Sacramento. Residents of the small community of Roseville gave the president a tour of their damaged homes. He talked one-on-one with residents and talked later about what he heard and saw.
I wish I could bottle what I have seen and heard here today and spread it out in every community in America. We could solve about half the problems of this country in a very short time if I felt the kind of devotion and commitment everywhere that I sensed here on the streets of this community today. And I just want to urge you not to give up and not to be discouraged.
Earlier today, Mr. Clinton visited Cal State Northridge 1 year after the big quake hit there, but his tour of buildings under repair was cut short when the Secret Service found what some thought were pipe bombs. They turned out to be harmless, plain pieces of pipe, not dangerous. Residents along the Russian River are making progress tonight, cleaning up their flooded-out homes. Meanwhile, forestry crews are working fast to clear away dangerous debris floating down the river. The National Guard went up in helicopters today to pick up propane tanks and other toxic debris. Tanks and drums containing chemicals were washed away from homes and businesses during the flooding last week.
They have no idea what's in those barrels for the most part. Some may be empty, but surely some have insecticides and things like that because it's an agricultural area.
As you can imagine, it's an enormous and very expensive cleanup operation. The federal government already has promised $10 million in relief to Northern California. And today, President Clinton pledged another $15 million in emergency money from the Federal Highway Fund.
Prosecutors say they have more proof that O.J. Simpson had a history of domestic violence. That story still ahead.
And what's called the first drug to treat alcoholism in almost 50 years.
And what was this in the sky over San Francisco late today?
Add the luxury of 8 speakers to the smooth power of 141 horses to the richness of leather trim. Introducing a new Galant with HomeLink. An exclusive new system that opens the door and lights the way to a new level of meaningful luxury. From Mitsubishi, the new thinking in automobiles.
I often make my own pasta sauce. I even grow my own Roma tomatoes. But your Classico di Salerno sweet peppers and onions is so authentic, I'd be proud to call it my own.
And now, try new Classico di Capri with sun-dried tomatoes, reminiscent of that sun-drenched island. And from Genoa, the birthplace of pesto, comes the inspiration for Classico tomato and pesto, both rich in flavor and tradition. Taste the difference authenticity makes with Classico.
I love your books. I'd like to see them breathe.
Peter's talking to a Hollywood big shot.
I'd like to see them come to life. I'm thinking big screen.
3,000 miles away, and you can see his face in perfect detail, unfortunately.
Personally, I feel like we're a family already.
Personally, I don't want to be in his family.
Sounds good. Yeah. I'd like to see it fleshed out a little.
Watch your pockets, guys.
For those of you who believe you can never get too much of a good thing, Mervyn's Stock Up Sale is the place to be. Stock up on all the things you need, all in one place. You'll find denim, and more denim, and shoes to keep you going and going. Save time, save money. If you see it here, it's on sale. You simply can't get too much of a good thing at Mervyn's Stock Up Sale. It's going on this week only, so hurry.
Yeah.
Los Angeles district attorneys are offering more evidence that O.J. Simpson has a history of domestic violence. Court documents released today show that police officers responded to reports of violence by Simpson's first wife, Marguerite Simpson Thomas, while they were still married. Those same documents also allege that Simpson called his ex-wife 6 hours before the now famous low-speed chase. In that conversation, Thomas allegedly said that Simpson said he was being framed. 4 of the 5 teens accused of starting a fire that virtually destroyed a San Jose elementary school are now taking responsibility for their actions. The 14 to 16-year-olds have decided not to contest the felony charges filed against them in connection with that December 21st blaze. The Santa Clara DA's office says prosecutors are open to community suggestions about punishment. The case of a 5th student is still pending.
There's new hope tonight for 15 million Americans who are addicted to alcohol. Researchers have discovered that a drug currently used to treat heroin addicts is also effective in treating alcoholics. Today, the FDA approved the use of naltrexone as a prescription drug to treat alcoholism. It blocks the alcohol craving in the brain, but it will not work alone.
Naltrexone is not a cure, it's not a silver bullet, it's simply an aid to other good treatment programs.
Researchers say the relapse rates for alcoholics is cut in half when they use naltrexone. You've heard that phrase, wait till your father gets home. Well, a new study shows Dad isn't spending much time with his kids these days. The report studied moms and dads in 11 different countries. Researchers found that on the average, American fathers only spend 42 minutes each day with their preschoolers. Mothers, on the other hand, spend 11 hours each day supervising their children. By the way, American fathers appear to spend more time with their kids than dads from other countries. The study shows that fathers in Hong Kong spend only 6 minutes a day with their kids.
Mom-to-be Roseanne is apparently having a tough time with her pregnancy. A spokesperson for Roseanne said doctors have ordered the actress off her feet and into bed. 2 months ago, Roseanne underwent in vitro fertilization. Her representative isn't saying what kind of medical problem she's having, but doctors have advised her to stay in bed as a precautionary measure. And Roseanne reportedly is resting comfortably tonight.
Coming up in our next half hour, the very latest information from Japan as rescue crews try to find possible survivors.
Also, what are structural engineers in the Bay Area learning from that quake?
22 minutes, 16 seconds past the hour.
Nice guy, James. His name's William.
A familiar face, a morning smile, an extra step.
Bridge was down, but he got here anyway, didn't he? It's nice.
At this moment, the people of FedEx are using their know-how, determination, and heart to treat your package as if it were the most important package of all. Because to them, that's exactly what it is.
James, such a nice boy. He is a nice boy, but his name's William.
On the next Extra, sexy star Ellen Barkin faces her most outrageous role yet.
She's bad to the bone.
Go behind the scenes with Extra to see how Ellen gets her kick in her hot new movie.
You don't want to be alone in a room with her.
Then actor-director Quentin Tarantino's star is shining. But is his recent popularity changing his attitude?
You don't get to me today? I'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
The story only on Extra.
Extra, Wednesday at 6:30 on KPIX 5.
Starts with a single step, and then it goes. Starts with a single step, and then it goes. Starts with a single step, and then it goes.
Yes, that's better. Starts with a single step.
Under the assumption that needs to be done properly.
What are you going to do it for? How are you going to do it? What are you going to do it for? Who are you going to do it for?
Starts with a single step, and then it goes.
Trying, but these two leases on the Jeep Grand Cherokee make it tough.
I think we should go for the $0 down.
And I think we should go for the $318 a month.
Harry, it's gone.
What's gone?
The Grand Cherokee.
If we don't make up our mind, they'll all be gone.
Okay, I agree. Let's go for the $318 a month.
No. $0 down is awfully tempting.
Now that one's gone.
I told you.
Let's just flip a coin.
Okay, it's heads.
Does that mean the $0 down or the $318 a month?
Oh, boy.
The Make Up Your Mind lease, now and for a limited time at your California Jeep and Eagle dealers.
Who else?
As many as 6 cargo ships are reported heading to Kobe, Japan right now, loaded with relief supplies. And now more than 100,000 people are living in the streets or in makeshift centers there. The ambassador talked about the 2,000 fatalities.
It hit in the center of an urban area, and it's of such breadth and depth. You know, even as we meet here, the number of deaths and the number of missing and the number of injured continues to rise. I mean, I don't think we've seen the end of this.
One casualty was a 24-year-old American woman. Her name has not yet been released.